Chase Young signs on Monday, and a fun fact that turns out not to be very much fun. I'm Tim, and let's talk Saints. As I'm sure you heard by now, being it's Tuesday morning, Chase Young came in for his visit with the Saints yesterday and left with a contract. Reportedly a one-year deal, $13 million. Adam Schefter reported that it was fully guaranteed, which I don't know about that. Saints don't normally do fully guaranteed, but since it's 1 year and it's an edge rusher and they're expensive if you want any type of good one. So I guess it's possible. Sure, today, tomorrow, we'll kind of get a full contract status from one of the Saints reporters, and I'm hoping it's one of those what they normally do in a weird sort of way. I know we're getting to the kick the can down the road conversation again, but in this case, money this year and maybe a couple of years worth of dead money might not be too bad as long as it isn't excessive. It's the Saints, so excessive is always on the table when they do stuff like this. Biggest thing about this whole situation is we have to remind ourselves, maybe, probably most of us haven't forgotten, that the Saints only had 34 sacks last year. Granderson had 8 of them by himself. That's about a quarter of the total sacks. And when you look at our best interior pass rusher, which was Brzee, he had 5. So they're combined 13. That's over a third of the production. Definitely need help in both categories, but specifically when you're looking at the edge, Chase Young is starting to make more and more sense. And prior to him signing, your edge rushers were Granderson, who's very solid and not going anywhere anytime soon because they do have him under contract. You have a big question mark with Cam Jordan. Was last year just more of the ankle injury situation and a slight sign of age, or is his years in the league finally caught up to him and you have a declining player on your roster? That question won't be answered till week 1. So, and he's on paper your second best guy right now, or previous to signing Chase Young. Foskey's just as big as a question mark as a second-round pick, and Peyton Turner as a former first-rounder, because you just haven't seen very much of either one of them. For various reasons, Turner's injury history is actually worse than former first-rounder Marcus Davenport's. And Foskey, I don't really know what's going on other than the fact that as a second-round pick and kind of the expectations they were giving us when they drafted him, we were looking for an impact player that I think he was just a little over 100 total snaps on the season, which basically is nothing. He's, all intents and purposes, going to be a rookie all over again this year as far as what we've seen, what we know, and what's going to translate to helping the pass rush. And then you have Passaniow, who is a fantastic veteran depth piece and can give you some snaps, can do it from the outside, from the inside. He's a very valuable guy to have on your roster. But that value is as a veteran depth piece. You want to use him situationally. You want to use him correctly. He's coming in to give some guys a breather where your production isn't dropping off significantly. That's it. That was just kind of what you were looking at before yesterday afternoon. And this is a big risk-reward situation in the signing, but I think you had to take the chance. Like I said earlier, edge rushers are not cheap in the NFL. And the risk is entirely based on what version of Chase Young we're going to get. And the reward is going to be decided by do we finally see the 2020 defensive rookie of the year version of Chase Young? We're golden if that shows up. Are we going to see the kind of inconsistent production he had prior to the knee injury in 2021 and then 2022 trying to come back from the knee injury? Now you're in Marcus Davenport territory, and that's not where you want to be with this move. And if you get the version of Chase Young that played part of the season with Washington last year and finished with the 49ers on the playoff run, I can live with that. I mean, if he's going to bring 7 sacks and some athletic ability on the edge, and even if he's not the number one guy, if he can just bring a Granderson-type level what Granderson did, and let's assume, because we want to win and see a good pass rusher, that Granderson is going to continue to develop like he has over the last few seasons. And if Chase Young shows up as a slightly better version of last year, a little more development, you at least have something moving in the right direction on the edge as far as pass rush. And they both have some ability to play the run. It's not like some edge rushers you bring in where that's all they do. You know, we kind of remember Junior Galette. Yeah, his double-digit sacks for the few years we got him were great, but there wasn't a whole lot going on there if he wasn't rushing the passer and sacking the quarterback. And these two guys will bring a little more. And Young's kind of important in that when we get to the second segment on my not-so-fun fact. So overall, yeah, I'm hesitant, like a lot of people are in this signing, in the what you're going to get category. And once again, are we going to get what we paid for? And there's a lot of edge rushers still available out there that if we'd have made a similar move with, I wouldn't be calm about it right now. I'd be, what are we doing? But a bit of a gamble. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And the size of the gamble depends literally on, there's kind of 3 versions of Chase Young in his 4 years. 2 of the 3 is going to help this team. So I'm on board as of right now. I just reserve the right later on in 2024 to reverse my opinion. But let's hope for the best, and let's hope that you're looking at 2 rush ends that are basically going to start, or 2 defensive ends that are basically going to start, that in the rush combined are getting us alone to that 20 sack area. Brzee continues to improve. Everybody else starts to contribute like we need them to, and they should. That 34 total sacks is going to go up. The pressures are going to go up. The big plays associated with bringing a lot of pressure on an NFL quarterback are going to go up. So I don't grade, but if you would force me to grade, I'm thinking a solid B for right now. Potential A. We don't want to even consider what the potential other case scenario could be. So that's Chase Young, brand new New Orleans Saint. And finally, the not-so-fun fact. A lot of conversation recently with the signing of Willie Gay and the, at the time, potential signing of Chase Young, now confirmed, of what tight ends and rushing / mobile quarterbacks did to the Saints defense last year. And I thought, well, there's a fun fact. Let's actually go find out what the numbers are. Wow. I pulled this from CBSSports.com in their fantasy football section. If you play around in there, you find where they break down positions against team defenses game by game and then totals. We're just going to look at the totals. Tight ends versus Saints defense last year, 17 games. 116 targets, 79 receptions, 833 yards, 8 touchdowns, and they averaged 10.5 yards or basically a first down per catch. If Juwan Johnson would have put up those numbers last year for us, he wouldn't have been an all-pro, but he'd have been in the conversation because those numbers break down to he would have finished 6th overall in targets for tight ends, 7th in receptions, 7th in total yards, and he'd have been 2nd in touchdowns behind only Sam Laporta. That's scary. Adding to the fact that of the tight ends that would have been above him, we didn't play against George Kittles. We didn't play against Travis Kelce. We didn't play against Mark Andrews when he was healthy, who wasn't on the list because of injury, but would have been if he'd have played a whole season. We played against Sam Laporta. We played against TJ Hawkinson, which let's talk about that for a second. We made TJ Hawkinson look like Tyreek Hill when we played Minnesota. Wrap your head around that concept, that anybody could make TJ Hawkinson resemble Tyreek Hill. So when I went to quarterbacks, I went with a specific intention in mind when I looked at the numbers there and said, let me compare what they did to our rushing quarterback, Taysom Hill. In 17 games, Taysom had 16. They had 72 attempts. He had 81. They had 392 yards. He had 401. They averaged 5.44 yards per carry. He averaged 5 yards per carry. They had 2 TDs. He had 4. It's not so fun when basically for a whole season, on average, the total numbers that were put up basically meant you were playing against an elite tight end, some version of the elite tight ends in the league, without ever playing more than 2 of them. And that's not counting the other guys in the top 10 that still very productive, you know. And you played against Taysom Hill. For 17 weeks, some version of a top 5 tight end and Taysom Hill were lining up on the offensive side against you every single week. Now, as bad as that is, that's what I was saying earlier about starting to really kind of changing my opinion about bringing in an athletic edge rusher or a chance for an athletic edge rusher like Chase Young can be for the pressure on the quarterback. Hopefully that'll help a lot of that not being able to get the ball to tight ends downfield because the quarterback is on the ground or having to get rid of the ball. For the rushing mobile quarterbacks, having an athletic defensive end who can, again, get to him quick. Watch the highlight of him dropping Patrick Mahomes last year in the Super Bowl. And depending on what list you're looking at, considering regular season, postseason, Mahomes was one of the 2 least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL last year. It was him and Josh Allen. And Young got him in the Super Bowl and got him easily if you watch the highlight. Not only that, if quarterbacks start to break contain in the pocket, you need somebody with the ability to go run them down. Chase Young gives you that. Willie Gay gives you that. Willie Gay also gives you, from the linebacker spot, the ability to cover tight ends, the ability to spy quarterbacks when need be. He did do it for Kansas City the last couple of years. So this fun fact, at least, or not so fun fact, at least kind of illustrates that hopefully the Saints realize we have to get younger and more athletic on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the front 7. And they made 2 moves here that seems to me recognizes that and trying to do something about it, because I'm sure they're tired playing against the likes of a Travis Kelce and Taysom Hill every single week for 17 weeks. One more thing on Willie Gay, his interview he gave last Thursday, I believe, to the New Orleans media. He mentioned specifically about wanting to come to New Orleans to get more snaps because he felt at times at Kansas City he just wasn't getting enough snaps, wasn't being on the field enough, and that his style of play, as he was describing it, is I want to get in the game flow and I want to be in there. And I love that attitude coming in. And I'm pretty sure when you consider, yeah, these numbers we're talking about, I think it's on board with the Saints going, yeah, our plan is to get this guy on the field, especially in these situations where we need him. He'll be out there somewhere. So leave you with that thought. As unpleasant as what tight ends and mobile running quarterbacks did to us in 2023, the two quote-unquote big signings we've had so far this offseason, I think really addresses some needs in this front seven that obviously glaring. So, again, going back to Chase Young, this swinging the needle more for me. And since we signed Willie Gay, I was like, hey, that's a good move. And the needle swinging even more. Hey, that's potentially another great move if it works out. So let me know what you think. Drop me a line in the comments below. YouTube, Rumble, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification, do everything you guys can do to help the algorithms figure out where we are and get them to more of an audience. Thank you for watching. Peace out. Who dat?